to Mo's World, the baseball podcast. We're excited to bring you our latest episode. Your feedback is important to us, so please feel free to share your comments. If you enjoy the podcast, spread the word to your friends. Alrighty. In our 10th episode of Season 2, opening day is here. Thursday, March 27th, was opening day for most teams. Major League Baseball had 14 games to begin the season as the Yankees versus Brewers got us started at 3:05 p.m. and the A's versus Mariners rounded out the day with an evening game in Seattle. Now, our podcast was produced prior to all the games, so let's look at what we may have in store for this season. Now, we've talked about many aspects of the season already in potential contracts, CBA, revenue sharing, teams' locations, and the hot new topic. Of course, it's the Uecker Line. Yes! Now, this could be an interesting year in defining or unsupplanting recent trends in baseball. Now, if you've listened to us in the past, you realize that Major League Baseball teams are copycats. Yep, the team that wins the World Series is the envy of the league, and it's usually copied. Now, the funny thing is, this year, I don't really see that happening. I can't see, let's say, the Tampa Bay Rays abandoning everything and signing players to $750 million contracts. Now, the Dodgers at least got into the World Series with the money they spent on payroll. Defining the ability to defer contract money basically pissed off every team. Now, because players were okay to do that, with the Dodgers is the name, because the Dodgers management have shown that they want to improve the product on the field, while also creating a stadium that is ever-changing even as it celebrates its 63rd year in existence. Holy shit! Seriously? Dodger Stadium is 63 years old? Oh, sorry, but that kind of blows me away. Especially when modern stadium is being replaced after only 18 years in existence. Dodger Stadium was built for $23 million. Yeah, you heard that right. $23 million. Now, that figure alone is hysterical, right? Now, here's a stat which, should return to stadium building. Did you know that Dodger Stadium, it was the first privately funded stadium since Yankee Stadium in 1923. That's 40 years of stadiums being constructed with the excuse funding by Mr. Taxpayer. So we have gone from funding $30 million stadiums to $2.6 billion. Wow, that's a lot of money. Seriously, is this really going to stop? Oh, by the way, I know you're already thinking. I can hear you. I can hear your brain churning. What are the oldest baseball stadiums? I'm sure you figured out the first three, right? Fenway Park, Boston Red Sox, built in 1912. Wrigley Field, Chicago Cubs, built in 1914. We already said the third, Dodger Stadium, built in 1962. Angel Stadium, right behind them, the Los Angeles Angels, built in 1966. Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City Royals, built in 1973. The Rogers Center, Toronto Blue Jays, built in 1989. Rate Field, the Chicago White Sox, built in 1991. Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Baltimore Orioles, built in 1992. Progressive Field, Cleveland Guardians, built in 1994 and the 10th oldest baseball stadium. Coors Field, Colorado Rockies, built in 1995. Damn, are you kidding me? Seriously, this list makes me feel friggin' old. I went to the inaugural season at Camden Yards, and it's still one of my favorite stadiums. Awesome. What throws me is Coors Field is 10th on the list of oldest stadiums? Holy shit, really? Coors Field is turning 30 years old this year. Wow. You know what? It's time that the fans of the Colorado Rockies get that long-deserved World Series. They are one of the best fan bases in existence. Hang in there, Rocky fans. Well, I think this list makes you think. How do teams and cities afford stadiums these days? You know, in 2020, Globe Life Field opened in Arlington, Texas. It hosted the Texas Rangers, and it was the newest park in Major League Baseball, and it cost $1.2 billion. Now, the stadium was a 50-50 split between the Texas Rangers and the city of Arlington, with the city capping its financial contribution to $500 million. Now, with the added cost of building these stadiums and the desire to create an area or entertainment surrounding the park, costs have risen to close to $2 billion and more. The Atlanta Braves redefined how a Major League Baseball team wants to live. Practically all teams envy what the Braves created. The Battery, as it's called in Atlanta, is reported that the Braves generate a revenue from owning and operating the Battery, which is a mixed-use development. It's located right around Truist Park at over $50 million a year. That is why teams want to create their own Battery. With the demise of regional RSNs and also the high-priced regional contracts, this is an item that, well, no team has intention of sharing. That's why they all want this. You know, it's increased revenue. For this reason, the recent talks of teams like the White Sox, the Royals, the Blue Jays, and others have discussed the possibility of replacing their older stadiums with the newest trend of today, a ballpark community, which starts, like we said, at $2 billion plus. My question is, in today's struggling environment of everything, how can Major League Baseball teams ask the city, the state, the taxpayer to pay for 70% of the cost of a new stadium? How can this continue in today's costs? You know, the threat of relocation, say after 20 years because they get a better deal or they want new improvements, that costs as much as the initial construction. You know, I would like a team, let's say a new team, like the Nashville Stars. They create a location of envy, a baseball and entertainment complex that their rivals, that rivals the neighbor to the south, the Braves. But they do it with private funding. Why can't the team create private funding, and accomplish what they want? If I'm Nashville, I'd say, look, of course we want you. We'll supply the land and infrastructure if you agree to stay here for 30 years. The stadium's all yours to pay for. You want a $2.6 billion removable domed stadium? You pay for it. Why do taxpayers have to pay for a stadium that the team uses and threatens us in 30 years? Don't you think that the team that pays for their stadium will want to work with the local municipality to improve it? Now look at the Dodgers. We have already stated that they have the third oldest stadium in Major League Baseball. Also, the fact that they funded the stadium. Do you think they have pride of ownership? pride of the fact that they created a landmark stadium celebrating 63 years in operation. And they just spent $100 million in stadium upgrades and enhancements for the fan and players. Yes, that's what I want to hear. That's fucking awesome. And the league hates them for signing players to massive contracts as well. It must be good to be a Dodger fan. This proves how hard it is to have an ownership group who gives a shit. Do you really think that Bob Castellini, the owner of the Reds, the majority owner, is going to give the same thought to Great American Ballpark when they want their updates? The team leases the stadium from Hamilton County, Ohio, and the Reds pay a sweet deal of $2.5 million a year to lease the stadium. By the way, Great American Ballpark cost the taxpayers of Ohio $290 million to build in 2001. Do not believe that the owners don't make money. Bullshit. Castellini paid $270 million in 2006 to purchase the Reds, who have been valued today at $1.6 billion. Now, I think that's a nice profit, eh? So for a team that was 22nd best payroll in the sport, yet it generates approximately $315 million a year, they can spend some money. As I always say, if you wonder why something happens, ask who makes the money. Now there's talk of the Reds signing Elly De La Cruz to an extension. Now hopefully you realize that the Cleveland Indians in the mid-90s basically started the idea of extending its young stars' contracts to favorable deals for the teams. The Atlanta Braves picked up on this idea, and they continued to dominate over other teams on this process. Now, some teams, such as the Chicago White Sox, have done such a poor job of scouting and analysis of players that they've ruined the team for years with these type of contracts. It can be a crap shot. But what about Elly De La Cruz? Damn, he is exciting to watch. I mean, he steals bases, he's got developing power, but he strikes out more than Joey Gallo. And who are we going to get for 2025 and beyond? He enters his age 23 year, his third with the Reds. Looking back, in 2019, the Braves signed a young star, Ronald Acuna Jr., to an 8-year, $100 million extension. Now, his contract right now is $17 million this year, and that'll continue until 2028, where he'll be 30. So it's a nice, sweet deal for the Braves because of who Acuna turned out to be. So what can we expect Cruz to be? I'm going to go out on a branch here and say, 8 years, $150 million extension. He is no Acuna, but he could be. Now, it's worth the attempt to try to tie him up now. The Reds have money to burn. Don't buy into their small market can't complete bullshit. They do not pay shit for their stadium, and they owe it to their fans and taxpayers who did pay for the stadium to stay competitive and maintain a competitive team. And that's what should be written to some of these stadium deals. I mean, seriously, would you trust the A's John Fisher all of a sudden spending money on payroll when he gets to Vegas? If he ever gets a stadium there. So, no, of course you wouldn't. I want to see teams take some pride of ownership and civic pride. Buy your own friggin' stadiums. I know it's common now in the sport world to say, I hate the Dodgers. They're getting all the players and signing them to all these deferred contracts. You do? Or do you wish your team did the same thing? Hey, it wasn't long ago that the Players Association hated deferred contracts, and they told their players not to sign deferred contracts. It affected the amount of contracts, lowering the average annual salary, impacting arbitration numbers. But I haven't heard the union say jack shit about them since the Dodgers have adopted this policy. I find that quite interesting. I think it's kind of cool looking at the stadiums we listed before and the ages of the stadiums. Some of these teams will be hoping for replacements. All I'm saying is, should we still be treated like the owners are the kings, threatening to move or leave if they don't get a new stadium deal? They would not act like spoiled little shits if they bought and invested in the upkeep of their own stadium. For this reason alone, I give kudos to the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Now don't forget, this is coming from an Atlanta Braves and a New York Yankees fan. I hate the friggin' Dodgers, but I can appreciate their commitment. Now, with the year just about starting, I'm going to keep my eye on what I think are a lot of developing stars. And don't forget, most of the time it takes an average of 4 years before even a Hall of Fame caliber player starts hitting his stride. And it's a who's who of names this year. Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman of the Baltimore Orioles, Tristan Casas of the Boston Red Sox, Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals, Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. We talked about Ellie De La Cruz of the Cincinnati Reds, Jackson Merrill of the Padres, Michael Harris II of the Braves, Francisco Alvarez of the New York Mets, Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Spencer Schwellenbach of the Atlanta Braves, Wyatt Langford of the Rangers, James Woods of the Washington Nationals, Jackson Chourio of the Brewers, and Riley Green of the Detroit Tigers. These are the guys I'm watching this year to see if they take the next step. It could mean how the teams pan out. It's too early to really define any team as the one. Injuries have hit some early, and we all know it's a long season. Well, thank you for joining us for the 10th episode of Season 2, Mo's World, the Baseball Podcast. Our regular schedule for new episodes is every Friday, with each episode lasting approximately 20 minutes. We appreciate your support and encourage you to share the podcast with your friends. Our next episode will be released on Friday, April 4th. We look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, ask yourself, whose world is it? It's Mo's World.